Hi, Mike.
Yeah, hello, Manbir. Good afternoon to you. Thank you very much
Good
for offering me the opportunity to have a conversation with you today.
good morning. Good morning. And thank you so much for joining in for this show, Growth Mindset Conversations. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Welcome, everyone. I'll really appreciate if you could comment that you can hear us, watch us live on any of the medium you are watching us YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So, if you can comment, any of you can comment so that we know that we are actually live. Thank you so much for commenting that. And thank you. Thank you, Mike, for joining. Mike is joining us from London, from UK, and welcome everyone to 31st episode of Growth Mindset Conversations. Please do join me in welcoming Mike Clark from UK. Mike is a qualified and accredited executive coach and coach supervisor. Mike is very passionate about the development of the next generation of coaches and has also co created an ICF approved certificate in coaching supervision, a qualification aimed at developing good practices in coaching standards as well as in one to one and group supervision sessions. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Manbir, and thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully, you're going to find this really interesting about how coaching supervision can benefit the coaches who you bring into your organization.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very curious to have this conversation with you, Mike. And as the show is called Growth Mindset Conversations, Mike, what is growth mindset to you?
Yeah, well, I've got really five areas I think growth mindset's about. The first one is really passion for learning, really wanting to learn and develop as an individual. That's around continuous development. The second one is having self-belief, that as an individual that you believe in your ability and your potential and you can make things happen. And both of those are really relevant to coaches and coaching supervision, having a passion for learning and having self-belief. The third one is around being positive and having positivity in what you do and bringing that across in your relationships and your conversations with others. The fourth one is resilience, particularly during these tough times that we've all experienced over the last couple of years. Having resilience and a desire to make things happen and achieve, regardless of setbacks and difficulties, is really important to a growth mindset. And the final one is really action focused, really making all those things turn into reality, being very determined and having a goal in mind for yourself. So those are my five areas of a growth mindset.
Wow, and that's very clear, objective answer to the question growth mindset. And I guess the last one feeds to the first one, right? Action based to again learning, relearning, and then again self belief, positivity, resilience, and action again.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, in some ways, a lot of those areas are self-centered and self-focused. But of course, someone with a growth mindset is also very interested in helping and developing others too, which is
Yeah.
where coaching supervision comes in from a coaching point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Mike. And Mike, let's get to the topic. This is the right moment to segue to the actual topic of the conversation today, which is raising the quality of executive coaching in your business through coaching supervision. So, when organizations or leaders hire or engage executive and leadership coaches, they look for credentials, they look for experience, they look for recommendations as a few very important parameters before hiring or before engaging with executive and leadership coaches. And based on my discussions with you earlier, you recommend that they also should engage with supervised coaches. Supervised coaches, as they should look at supervised coaches as one of the parameters. Why so? Would you like to tell our leaders here that why do you recommend so?
Yeah, well, certainly all those things you described are really important when a buyer, an HR director or CEO engages with an executive coach. Those things are vital to know that your coach has got qualifications, experience, and some real good referrals and recommendations. These are really important, but I think those areas are very much about the past. Things that we've
Mm-hmm.
done. Whereas coaching supervision focuses really very much on the here and now of the executive coach. What are they doing now? How are they developing? How are they learning? But it's also future focused, thinking about ideas, opportunities, and development for the executive coach moving into the future. So it's a difference between the past and what's going on now in the coach's world and their development as an individual too. I think also it offers coaches the opportunity to gain a very much a fresh perspective into their coaching work and allows their coaching self to develop and flourish. For example, that's about having authenticity. When coaches come out of their qualification programs, they tend to be following a certain model or framework. Once they move out into the wide world, they need to find their self and
Mm-hmm.
and value their difference. That's where supervision can help them to do that. And my colleagues and I in the UK, we describe our coaching supervision work as the executive coach being able to support their coaching clients with a regular 360 tour of themselves. That's very much about looking around themselves, looking inside and looking outside to find out more about their abilities and their passions and their skill set. I think as a result of and through supervision, an executive coach will develop their self-awareness, their self-belief and positivity, and gain supervision about themselves as a coach. And all those things really relate to the growth mindset qualities that I described earlier. I think
Absolutely.
finally, the executive coach will bring a richness into their coaching sessions through coaching
Mm-hmm.
with the coachees in an organization. I think that's a big wow, for the coachee experiencing that with their executive coach, that richness. And I think those points are very different to a mentoring relationship with a coach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like what you said. It talks about here and now. It's future focused. And another thing which really, stuck with me was finding themselves. Coach find themselves actually, because they can get lost in this big wide world, and they kind of, have their own flavor to coaching. They understand, what is their own flavor to coaching. Yeah, thank you for explaining that. So this is the coach's side, but what kind of value it creates for the end client, which is the coachee, or the organization who is engaged with the executive coaches. It'll be great if you can share some examples with us.
Yeah, well, I think one of the first examples is around ethics and boundaries. I think it's a place, coaching supervision is a place where an executive coach can review and refer to their boundaries during their relationships with their coachee in the organization. By that, I mean, some of the difficulties that the coach may have in working with some of the system, the organizational system, and how difficult that may be for the executive coach. So it's a place to bring those things for a conversation with their qualified executive coach supervisor. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also a place where an executive coach can experiment and take a risk uh, without really having a dramatic impact on their individual coaching sessions at that time. And they can develop their creativity and find new ideas for their coaching session. So it's a place where they can try out new ideas and find new ways of doing things in their coaching work. I think coachees in an organisation will also experience a freshness and positive difference in each of their coaching sessions. I think it makes for an exciting experience for an executive for a coachee, and knowing that their executive coach is constantly developing and looking at new approaches. And I think the coaching outcomes for the organisation are more likely to be achieved as a result. Um, a supervised executive coach will always be fine-tuning their performance and practice and continually developing, and that really is a benefit to the organisation too. I would also
Mm-hmm.
mention internal coaching because that's really important for coaches there to have some form of supervision with a trusted external supervisor. Some of your organizations, the people who have joined us today, will have internal coaches working with their leaders and managers.
Yeah.
But in that particular situation, there are potential conflicts of interest that that internal coach could have. And again, ethical and boundary issues that they could experience. But by bringing those to an external coaching supervision session, it helps the internal coach to understand more about those challenges and how to deal with them in their organization too. I think it provides an internal coach with a forum to uncover and share these challenges and learn to manage them effectively and professionally. So internal coaching, really great to have, but supervision should be part of that too.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Understand. Very interesting. And a critic in me wants to ask that what happens when your executive coach is not supervised?
Yeah, but I think you mentioned earlier, Mandy, about being a place for a coach to find themselves.
Yeah.
I think if an executive coach doesn't have this supervision opportunity, they could be in a place where they have nowhere to go to share, in a very much a confidential situation, their coaching challenges and worries. I mean, coaching supervision is an essential place for reflection to take place, a place for the executive coach to look back and consider what they've been doing and how they're feeling about their coaching relationships. So it's
Yeah.
where they need to go to do that. I think the executive coach could also internalize these issues rather than being able to share them. And this could create some self-doubt. Um, and also an executive coach could be in danger of being stuck during their coaching sessions and not performing at their best for their coachee. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
one executive coach could also become very stale, very bored, and lack fresh ideas in their coaching work. And that may then impact on the coachee's experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And many of us get stuck, right? So while coaching executives and leaders, we do get stuck. We do sometimes feel that, yeah, and then coaching supervision can help in that case.
Most definitely, and I personally have experienced times when I felt that
Yeah.
I'm bored with my coaching relationship. I need to bring that to my supervisor to get some energy and fresh perspective on that coaching situation and that coaching experience. You know,
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
so it's very important that you're able to share that externally.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And in India, coaching supervision is new. We are still kind of absorbing the term. We are still learning what coaching supervision is. So now, right now, we are talking to HR and business leaders who are hiring executive and leadership coaches. So, what is the right and polite way of asking a coach, if they are getting supervised or not?
Yeah, that's an interesting description of a polite way of doing it. I mean, certainly in the UK, sadly, buyers of coaching, HR directors and CEOs will always want to check that the coaches that they're bringing into their organization have some form of regular supervision with an accredited coach supervisor. So it's happening here in the UK. I think also it's buyers of coaching need to make sure that their executive coaches are quality assured, and that they're actually continuing to develop and be at their best. I think all those points you mentioned earlier about qualifications and experience are really
Yeah.
vital. Having this regular quality assurance of a coach's work is also very important to make sure that the buyers are comfortable with that. I also think it will give HR directors a feeling of confidence that their coachees, their executive coaches stand out and are always performing at their best. So, making sure that they're getting the best possible executive coach, and that they're different than the rest of the executive coaches on the market. I think also importantly, coaching accreditation bodies like the ICF also increasingly wanting their qualified coaches to have regular coaching supervision as part of
Yeah.
their CPD, continuous professional development. So I
Yeah.
think, that I'm not quite sure it really needs to be a concern for HR directors and buyers to ask for it. I think it's more becoming much more an essential requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
That's
think
right. Thank you.
it's very new for you in India, but it's going to happen. It will, as organizations develop and coaching becomes even more apparent in developing leaders and managers, it's making sure that the executive coach does stand out from the rest and is regularly developed and has a place to share coaching challenges with somebody external.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. That's an interesting one. So we have a question here, Mike, from somebody that what is the right time for coaches to start getting supervised?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think it should be once a coach has become qualified. So I think at the early stages of their development as an executive coach, I think that's really an essential place to start. I think some coaching bodies also, from an accredited point of view, will require their coaches to have regular supervision during that accreditation journey. So I think either or both newly qualified coaches, but also very experienced coaches too, could also benefit from coaching supervision as they become accredited as executive coaches, not just qualified, but accredited too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And Mike, if people want to understand more about coaching supervision, what is the right way to reach to you?
Yeah, so you can either contact me through yourself or through my email address, which is mike@coachingbridge.co.uk. Obviously, it may be better that we do it through yourself, Manbir, but
Yeah.
contact me through mike@coachingbridge.co.uk. I'd
And
love to.
LinkedIn also, right? They can approach LinkedIn also, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, through LinkedIn, you can find my profile, Mike Clark,
Yeah.
on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
I'll be very happy and delighted to have a conversation with anybody who would like to explore coaching supervision further and have a more detailed conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Anything else before we are almost at the end of our conversation? Anything else would you like to share with our viewers today about coaching supervision before we start winding up?
No, I think one of the things that certainly my colleague and I in the UK have done with the term supervision, we've actually split the word out, and rather than using the title supervision, we actually split it out into two words, super and vision. And we think that's really what we offer coaches, that they gain supervision about themselves and their coaching work and their coaching practice. So I think that's a really powerful opportunity for a coach to look more inside themselves and look more externally about themselves and develop their confidence, positivity, and self belief. So, working with us, you gain supervision about yourself as an executive coach. So I think that's a really good opportunity for you to think about.
I'm sure it is. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And
Thank you.
thank you so much, Mike, for your time, for sharing your expertise with us and helping us understand the power of supervision.
Yeah, thank you very much. And good to see you. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. And if you're watching this as a recording, as always, thanks to you too. I hope you have got value from this. See you all again in the next episode of Growth Mindset Conversation. Thank you, Mike, once again. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.